guys, this is a project that I've been doing over a period of time. Been doing little planchettes between other projects, and it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, and you'll see the inspiration for it a bit later on. I'm not going to show you all the steps for the planchettes because the idea for this is basically, if you have made planchettes, say for Halloween, and you've got a few and you don't really know what to do with them, how to display them, I thought this might be, an idea. I made the original version of this a couple of years ago when I first started doing resin, and decided it was about Halloween. Oh, what can I do that's kind of Halloween themed? And that's where this whole idea came from. And I wanted to reproduce it so that you guys could make one. Hopefully I'm doing it in enough time so that you can get all the bits and bobs together. But if not, well, there's always next year. My original version, it stays up in my front room all year round, so it's an all year round decoration. Now I've got two. On the original that I did, the planchettes and the board all hang off one of those photo holders. The reason that this video is a little bit longer is because that particular photo holder, it's not made anymore. The company that made it, they just don't seem to be making it. And I've been checking back fairly regularly because I knew I wanted to make this project. So we've got to make the photo holder as well. I mean, you don't have to, you could buy a different version of a photo holder, but I particularly like this one. So we're going to make that as well. This is the first board I made, and I haven't shown you how I put it all together because that would be a video in and of itself. It takes ages to put all the flowers down and wait until it's settled and you can put the next layer on. Ooh, spirits are restless. They're coming through. Now this will be a familiar technique to those of you who have watched me do tattoos before. I make myself a template. A bit wobbly, but it works. And then you cut it out. And because it's transparent, the transparency of the template allows you to see which portion of the tattoo you want to choose. So you can sort of customize it for yourself, whatever feels right, whatever looks right. And also this technique is good for if you're doing the reverse painting with the UV resin. So using my template to pick a part of the tattoo that I like, and then I just use one of these dotting tools to go around the outside a couple of times. There's a protective sheet on the front of these tattoos so you won't damage it. That just leaves a nice inscribed mark in the plastic. that you can then cut around. When cutting out this piece in the middle of the planchette with this X-Acto knife, please be careful. Don't chop anything off. End this project with all the digits you started with. That's a favour to me. Try and get your tattoo to come up to the edge as close as you can. You might need to do a little bit of trimming. And then once you've got it in position, you have to remove the protective film, remember. This is how I do it. Lift up half, take off the plastic film, rub the transfer down, which is now sticky, and then just take off the other side. That helps you to reposition, because once you've put these down, you don't want to lift them off again, because the chances are you will damage the sticker, the tattoo. Get your wet wipe out. Dampen it down. When you do a tattoo like this, remember you've got black lines in there, so you need to use a light colour. I went with this metallic. It's almost like a chrome. It's very nice. Turned out nicely. Could do white or pink, something like that. And do all your usual tools and everything. So they've had some time to cure. And yes, I love it. Worked out very well. Now I did actually make quite a few planchettes. I probably made about, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 in all. I didn't show them all to you because some of them I didn't like and some of them I didn't use. Some of the ones that you'll see me unmolding I didn't use. I've tried to focus on the ones that I will be using. That came out well too. I liked that. With that sort of blue through the centre. Then I had to get the old brain in gear and think, how shall I decorate them? Which I must admit was fun, thinking up ideas. And if you've watched my Bony Bill video where I made his coffins, you will be very familiar with this lovely glittery red. I love it. It's so red. So I chose that. I tried to get lots of colours in, lots of styles, just to make it interesting. This one, I don't know how that happened, but they look like little flowers. I like that. Sometimes you do something and it's just wow. Try to reproduce it and not so much. So I don't know how that effect happened. Now here's a small collection of some of the moulds I made. Cat hair gets everywhere. And a few more. The design that I'm making, you will need 12 planchettes, and you will see the varying sizes of them. And I copied my original because I really liked the way it was laid out. I like the sort of flow of all the different size planchettes, so that's why I chose it to remake for this version. I included a different version of this one. Here is the little devil cat that I made, and he turned out very well. Had fun with him. And this is another planchette I made with, I think it was the black pigment paste and red alcohol ink, and I like this one too. It's very similar to the turquoise and black, but I like that you can actually see through. Getting lots of variety in. And just some plain black, some plain colours, just so you can jazz them up a bit more. This is the flower mould. You don't get to see the unmoulding, but this is how it turned out. You can see all the flowers that were crammed in there. I laid out some of my planchettes and just started playing around with things. I thought the little devil cat, since his colour scheme kind of matched the purple, he was done with the mica powders. I thought he went quite well on there. I liked that. I actually made him, I think, the other way around, with its horns turned, pointing towards the curves of the heart. And the lovely red one, and I did the same thing on this as I did with the red coffin for Boney Bill. Put the back tattoos on. So I sort of like that. It appealed to me. The other thing I should mention is, because these were all made, this whole project, all the things in it were made over a fairly long period of time, bit here and a bit there. I am not going to list all the things that I decorated with, because that would just be such a list. I put in my usual description of the kind of resin I use and the molds that I use, but if you really want to know about any particular element, I'll see if I can dig that out. The other thing that I did with the planchettes, especially any that have a tattoo or a sticker, is I domed them all. It gives a nice surface and it makes them nice and shiny. Making the blue board. I love this blue. I have used this blue a lot. It's called Nokon Blue, N-O-K-O-N Blue, and it is by Eye Candy. And I came across these little flakes in my collection of stuff and thought, I'd chuck some of them in, see what that does. And I must say, it was a fortuitous find because it worked nicely. In fact, so nicely that I bought 2 more packets of these iridescent flakes, so I'll be playing with those in something else. Now, because the resin is light. The flakes are sort of light, but because your mould is face down, all those little tinsely bits, they'll sink to the bottom. So when you unmould it, you get a lot of those flakes at the front, which in this instance was a good thing. Usually I'm not a fan of too much glitter and stuff at the front, but this worked. Unmoulding. Now I was stunned when I saw this. I thought, phew, yes, love it. Gives that kind of sparkly space look. Anyway, I was very happy with that. To enhance the letters, I mixed up a little bit of acrylic paint. And acrylic paint, especially when you get it in the little bottles, is usually quite thin. If you can get it in a tube, it's thicker. So what I do is I pop a little bit of the acrylic paint on one of these paint palettes, and then I add a little bit of mica in the same colour, just to thicken it up a bit, to ease it into all those spaces. Also, if it's thicker, it tends to dry faster. Then all you do when you've put all your paint on, and I usually leave mine overnight to make sure it's absolutely dry. Once you've cleaned off all the excess paint, give your project a spray with something like Krylon sealer, which is what I do. It helps to protect the surface of the resin of the board and also protect the paint as well. So that's always a good thing to do. Seal everything in. Once you've done this, if when you clean it you've got some gaps, just go back over it. Be patient, wait for it to dry and clean it again and then seal it. Because sometimes you don't always get it in the spaces. Now, I know this looks complicated, but all these measurements here are the distance measured down from the bar that will be at the top. And then I cut all my string, all my cord, to 25 inches long to make sure that all the lengths were covered. I took all the measurements from the original and transferred them onto this sheet of paper so that I could copy the exact layout. And I marked on the paper the top position and the point of each planchette for positioning from the original. The numbers are from the top of that bar that will be going along to the top of the planchette and the point. I know it looks complicated. And then all I did was taped these down with a little bit hanging over the edge, just to make sure that I have enough length on each string. There are 6 strings, or cords, or whatever you want to call them. You can see how I've laid out my planchettes, big ones, there are small ones and a couple of medium-sized ones, and the board in the middle. And this was quite a project. This bar is one of those magnetic poster holders. Oh, The magnets in those are so strong. I kept forgetting how strong they were, and I trapped the skin of my fingers in them several times, so they're quite snappy. But that's a good thing because it helps to keep everything in place. You will be putting resin on the strings at the top to ensure that they don't just slip through. So that's taken care of later on. I lay out all my planchettes, get them where I want them. Some of the planchettes you'll see, you didn't actually see me unmolding them or making them in this video because they were made at other times and included in this. That's what I mean when I say this project took me a while to making a little bit here and a little bit there, till I had enough that I thought, yep, I can start that project now. On the board in the middle, on those middle two strings, so now they're all laid out. All I do is take some of that magic tape, put the planchette upside down, back in position, put the tape on the back, but leave a little bit of space so that you can put UV resin on. So you can see with the first heart that I did, I've left a little bit of space under the tape, which is near the top, and a little bit of space at the top of the tape at the bottom of the hole. And just do this for all of them, which takes a while. Now, so just keep turning them over and taping them. Try to get the string as straight as you can, just by giving it a little bit of tension and taping. This is a project that will need patience, and there are several times here when I went away because my back was killing me. Yeah, my back doesn't like to be not sitting down. Once you've taped them down, get yourself some UV resin and start putting it where the strings, you can get access to the strings. Again, it's kind of a long process because you have to put the resin on, then you have to give them a little bit of time under the lamp, and there are 11 here, and then there's one that goes on the top, which makes the 12. And just work your way to the other end. When you put your resin on, make sure that your strings, or your cords, or whatever you want to call them, are on the point of the heart at the bottom. Try and push some of the resin underneath the string. I use my silicone tool to sort of spread it around and push down on top. to make sure it's embedded. Turn your planchettes over. Make sure your strings are in the center. And then flip them all over again and take off the tape and really put on a good amount of resin to make sure they are truly secure. And I just separated them up into 2 piles and put them under a larger UV lamp just to make sure they were all cured. There you can see the 2 planchettes I made. I do like the flower one, but I decided to go with the blue because I really like the blue. I gave it a gold edging as well, used one of those gold pens. And the planchette sits 2.5 inches down, the top of the planchette sits 2.5 inches down from the bar. What you did with the planchettes, you basically do with the board, but you can't turn it over. Well, you could, I suppose, but it's trickier. So all I did with the board was put a couple of bits of that magic tape underneath and I pushed down on it and that held it in position. Then I moved up to the strings and put a little bit of UV resin on them, cured them, turned the board and the planchettes over and went upstairs. So you can see the tape on the back of the board. Spirits are getting feisty again. I turned the whole thing with the back to me and put resin on the board in the same fashion that I did with the planchettes. Turn it the right way around. What I'm showing you on the pad are the measurements taken from the original, and that's the length of the strings. We cut our strings 25 inches long, so you have plenty of length on there. Then I went along with my quilting ruler and I had marked on my quilting ruler, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and the measurements of each. Put the top of the ruler up against the bar. The top is now snapped on, and just read off the measurements on the ruler for each of the lengths of the strings. So the measurements are actually marked in pencil on my ruler, and just cut them. Now this is sticking on the tassels, the most frustrating thing of this whole project. Don't ask me why I was so cack-handed and so fiddly, but this nearly drove me crazy. Fairly patient person, but I walked away a few times just to calm down. And it's just simply getting these tassels. As I say, I will put all the relevant supplies in the description box. Gluing these tassels on using UV resin. I tried it with other glue. It was either too messy or it took just too long, to secure. So yes, the frustration point of this project was putting the little tassels on. Thank goodness there are only 6. Now reinforce the Ouija board with a little bit more UV resin like you did for the planchettes, and check your tassels. Then I went along the top and just snipped off these bits that were hanging over the edge. And time to put the final planchette in position. I used this glue because it sticks very well and you get a little bit of open time from repositioning things. I see we have a visitor. Very cheeky. Get a nice view of the back of my ear there. Lucky you. I also find that when you use this glue, if you shift it around a little bit, it tends to help with the bonding process. I don't know why. Maybe it's just friction helps to set the glue. But I do like this glue. And that's the last planchette. And there we have it. The final piece. I like it very much. That's why I made this version, and I thought you guys might like to make one too.